My boyfriend doesn't want to marry me because I'm an immigrant. I, 29 female, moved to the US 7 years ago as a grad school student from Indonesia. I met my boyfriend, 30 male, a few months after I moved, and we've been together ever since. My boyfriend is a US citizen. After I graduated, we had a serious discussion about where our relationship was headed. I made it very clear that I wanted to eventually get married and have children. My boyfriend echoed the sentiments. I remember asking him if he saw that happening with me because I didn't want to be in a relationship with no future. He told me he loved me and that we were definitely headed in that direction. As of last week, we've been dating for 7 years. We've occasionally talked about marriage, but we were both busy with our respective careers, so the timing didn't seem quite right. However, recently, my company announced that there's a chance that my department's work will be outsourced. I'm on an H-1B visa, temporary worker, so this means that I need to start looking for a job ASAP if I want to continue staying in the US. Last week, during our anniversary, I brought this up. I asked him if he thought that it was the right time to think about getting married, as that will also help with sorting out my visa issues. He looked like he was about to vomit. After much prodding, he confessed that he wasn't planned on us getting married before I was able to get a green card, permanent resident, in the US. I was incredibly confused because he'd never mentioned this before. His reason was that he didn't want to be used as a visa mule. His words, not mine, by me, and that he wanted to make sure that I married him because I loved him and not because it was a ticket to getting to stay in the US, which can only happen when I get a GC. It took me a while to process what he said, and I asked him if he'd be okay to move to Indonesia with me, which he wasn't. I did not react well and ended up leaving because I couldn't deal with what just happened. I am still in disbelief. I started dating him because he was the kindest, most thoughtful, and generous man that I'd met. I now feel like I wasted 7 years. While the visa issues are certainly a problem, I didn't date him with the intention of making him my safety net. I cannot believe that even after nearly a decade together, he doesn't know what kind of person I am. I feel like this relationship is possibly over, and it hurts. It hurts so much. In the comments, Sonic Master XYZ says, "That's a really messed up thing for him to do. If it's not clear to him after 7 years that you love him, then there's something wrong on his end. Immigrant status should not matter, it doesn't define you." I'd use your phrasing during the breakup. I made my life goals very clear to you, and you led me along. If it's not clear to you after 7 years that I love you, then we can't continue. Immigration status does not define me. It should not matter. But if you cannot get past this issue, then we have no reason to be together. Seriously? If you were using him, wouldn't you have pushed for marriage much sooner? Like right after you graduated? Unbelievable. I am so sorry. He's a complete asshole for saying that. I really want to believe that there is something else going on, and he spoke out of his ass and feels terrible about it, but I don't know him like you do. You need to decide if having a larger conversation is worth having before sending the relationship to the grave. This might just be an excuse. It's difficult to imagine any sane person would think their significant other of 7 years, a lifetime in modern-day relationship longevity, played such a long con to wait 7 years to use their significant other for immigration. 7 years is almost a decade. It's a very long time. Why did he invest 7 years in this relationship? Most importantly, how can he be okay losing OP to immigration expiry? This is just one of those unfortunate relationships where it sounds like someone gets strung along for 7 years and lied to. I don't know what to say. I'd be disgusted if I was in your shoes, OP. To have the wool pulled over your eyes and be told that you're just in it for a green card after all that time, like Jesus Christ. At this point, is the relationship not doomed? Because even if you can smooth things over with him right now, how can you stay with someone who thinks the worst of you? Whether someone told them this or not. Is this not like the cement block that broke the camel's back? This just sounds like him breaking up with you without directly breaking up with you. And now onto update 1. A few days back, I made a post about how my boyfriend of 7 years didn't want to marry me because I was an immigrant on an H-1B and he didn't want to be a visa mule. I got a lot of wonderful comments and DMs. A few trolls too, but that's expected from Reddit. Because the thread got locked and the post was subsequently removed, I was unable to respond to anyone. I'm posting this update to do that, plus add in more things that have transpired since. Addressing some of the stuff in the comments. I have been on an H-1B visa for a bit more than 2 years now. I was on STEM OPT for about 3 years after grad school. I had terrible luck with the H-1B lottery, and I got one in the last round I was eligible to apply in. Getting PR in the US is not easy. I know people who have been here for 15 plus years who are still waiting for their PR. For those of you who DM'd me calling me a gold digger, you guys made me laugh. I'm aware of the legalities around sponsoring a spouse for a PR, including the financial aspect. It shouldn't have been a problem for the following reasons. I'm a STEM major who recently shifted into management. I work for a large company, and I do quite well for myself. My boyfriend is a teacher, and our incomes are not comparable. He earns around $60,000, I earn close to $300,000. We've been living together for around 6 years. We have a shared account to pay for expenses like rent and utilities that we both deposit a percentage of our salary into. The rest of our money goes into our own private accounts, and we don't manage each other's money. Because I'm pretty frugal, I've saved up quite a bit of money in the form of savings plus investments. If my boyfriend was worried about the legality of sponsoring me financially for 10 plus years, I would have happily discussed moving the money around. I was even considering buying a house, so we could have made that a joint ownership thing. The point is, we could have figured it out. I haven't relied on him financially ever, and I didn't intend on doing that in the future. I might not have considered everything, but you have to note that I thought about the marriage for visa thing very recently, only when the threat of possibly having to leave loomed over me. This isn't something that I'd thought about in detail at all. Regarding my situation back home in Indonesia, I come from a very religious and conservative family and had a horrible childhood. My family doesn't support my career choices. I cut contact with my family when I moved to the US, so they are not in the picture at all. I was on great terms with my boyfriend's family. They loved me. Now for the actual update. He is now my ex-boyfriend. I took a few days to collect myself and then reached out to him wanting to talk, and he agreed. It turns out that he has been insecure about earning less than I did for a while. Apparently, his friends have been poking fun at our relationship, calling me the sugar mummy because I take care of most of the expenses. He never told me this until now. He apparently didn't feel like an equal because our pay differs so much and started feeling that I was only with him as a quick way to get a PR here. I was speechless. I couldn't believe that his friends gaslit him into doubting our relationship. I reminded him how he had supported me when I was in grad school, like getting me groceries when I had little money to spare, allowing me to stay with him rent-free in my last year of grad school to help me minimize expenses so I didn't have to take out a loan, letting me use his car when I was attending interviews. I told him that he did them because he loved me, and me taking care of the majority of household expenses, since I started working, is my way of paying him back for all of the things that he did for me back then. He said that he gets what I'm saying, but also that he didn't expect me to start earning more than him straight off the bat. I asked if there was any chance he would consider going to couples therapy, like some of you had suggested, and he declined because he didn't think that he was being unreasonable. He said that he wanted to be a provider in a relationship and that he didn't feel like one in ours. So there's no going back from this unless I quit my job and found another that paid substantially less, which is not going to happen. Well, long story short, we broke up. His family is in disbelief. They were hoping that he would propose soon. I've moved into an Airbnb for now. A little bit of good news to end this update with. My company offered me a similar role in a different department. However, this is based out of France, and there's a small decrease in pay. I've always dreamed about living in Europe, and I've accepted this offer. I've signed the relocation agreement, and I'll move there in the next 8 to 12 weeks. A few comments. People took apart my update to point out a discrepancy. I first said, I haven't relied on him financially ever, and later, I reminded him how he had supported me when I was in grad school. I'm sorry for wording my feelings poorly, causing this confusion. I never asked or expected my ex to help me buy groceries or house me. I moved to the US to pursue a tech MBA from a top 20 school and had scholarships and student loans that were going to help me cover the cost of tuition plus living expenses. So at no point did I need him to help me. I knew I was going to have a financially difficult time for 2 years, and I was prepared for this. My ex, however, did not like that I was eating cold sandwiches and instant ramen most of the time and would bring me some groceries, vegetables, frozen food and the like, because he wanted to make sure that I was eating well. He was also the one who proposed the idea of me moving in with him because he wanted us to live together and also thought that it would lower my stress levels. He was an extremely kind, considerate, and generous man, and it was one of the reasons that I fell in love with him. I am extremely grateful for his support, but I wasn't relying on it. Had he not done any of the above, I would have managed. And now, onto the second update. I'm back with an update after about a year of moving to France. My previous posts are on my profile if you guys want to check them out. I absolutely love it here. The language barrier is very real, but I'm taking classes, and the people around me have been incredibly helpful. I've spent the last year experiencing all the good things that Europe offers. I've visited multiple cities in France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Denmark, Germany, and Luxembourg. I cannot believe how gorgeous all of these places are, and the more time that I spend here, the more I think about how fortunate I am to be able to experience this. I'm soon traveling to Italy, and I'm excited about everything. My work-life balance is also incredible. I was frequently putting in 10 to 12-hour workdays in the US, and I can count on one hand the number of times that I've had to work more than 8 hours a day here. I love the emphasis on personal time, and I cannot fathom going back to the way that it was before. I haven't had the courage to get back into dating yet. My experience with the ex has left a really bad taste in my mouth. Even though immigration here is a lot easier than in the US and is not really one of my worries, the thought of things falling apart after putting in a significant amount of time and effort scares me. I'm considering therapy, but I haven't quite made the leap to do that yet. My ex reached out to me a few months after I moved. He faced a lot of backlash from his family after we broke up, and he wanted to discuss reconciliation because he realized the error of his ways. I told him exactly how he made me feel and that I could no longer trust him. I had decided to move on and advised him to do the same. He's had to downgrade his lifestyle, as he could no longer afford to live the same way that we did, and I could tell that it made him unhappy. I'm not gonna lie, I did feel a pang of guilt and sadness after our conversation, but it is what it is. I got a bunch of DMs asking me what I do. I have an undergrad in comp science, and after a year of working, I decided to pursue an MBA. I was fortunate enough to get into one of the top 20 B schools with a scholarship that reduced my tuition by about 30%. I got into tech consulting initially, and then switched to product management after a couple of years. And now, onto the final update. It's been 3 years. I now live in the Netherlands. I switched over to another company last year. It's cold and wet most of the time, but this summer was glorious, and at times, hot enough to remind me of home. I went through therapy for a few months, and I must admit that I was not fully committed to it, but talking/venting helps a lot. That, and distance, and time, has definitely helped me heal. It's a bit hard making friends in the Netherlands. Most people seem to want to stick to their existing social circles. I've made a few friends through the expat community, but these friendships need more time and effort to become something worthwhile. I'm trying to date now. I signed up on a bunch of dating apps. Haven't really had a lot of success so far, but I'll keep putting myself out there. I still miss my ex sometimes, especially on days when I'm unwell, because it reminds me of how he used to take care of me and make me congee. I miss being cared for. And no, I have not reached out. That chapter is truly done. I got a cat. She's a very loud girl. I'll add a photo on my profile. Life is kinda good, I guess. I need more friends. Signing off. In the comments, Natty Bird says, honestly, this is probably the most realistic outcome of everything. OP still misses her boyfriend sometimes, who she dated for almost 7 years, and has struggles fitting in with a new culture. I do hope she's able to find a friend group. I've heard from friends that it's really hard to do that in the Netherlands. Maybe there are hobby groups or clubs. Also, the grin on my face when I think about him having to downgrade his lifestyle, I bet he misses being a kept man now. You know that the funniest thing about all of this is that I am 90% certain that all of his friends who were laughing about him having a sugar mummy and being a visa mule are now shaking their heads at him saying, I can't believe you let that absolute catch of a woman go. Note for any straight men reading, if your homeboys ever tease you for your partner earning more than you, do not do what this guy did. Call those fools jealous and have her buy you more things to rub it in and worship the ground that she walks on. If I had a partner making $300K, I'd be waiting on them hand and foot. The amount of men who whiff their loving partners earning high salaries is astounding to me. If my partner was earning that much, I'd be showing them off and basking in the upgraded lifestyle. Some men can't imagine being big without a woman being small. My girlfriend is providing for me and letting me live a lifestyle I wouldn't otherwise be able to? She must be with me for a green card. Imagine being so pathetic that your entire sense of self-worth derives from being financially better off than someone you purport to love. I just don't get it, and I wanted to talk about it when OP mentioned it, but I held my tongue until now, where I speak most often. But why did he choose to be a teacher if he wants to be the breadwinner of the household? Like, is it not just a common understanding at this point? Like, everyone knows that if you choose to go into teaching, it's more so for the passion of teaching than the generous financial reward that you just don't get? That's my perspective, and that's how I have perceived teaching in the modern age. I think it's a crime that teachers are not properly compensated for the work that they do. They are so understaffed and abused by the system. Not only was he delusional about the relationship that he was in, but he was delusional about the reality of being a teacher. Earning $60K still after 7 years and then being like, I want to be the breadwinner in this situation. You need to go find a job that earns less than mine. You're just asking to be broken up with. You're not living in reality. I don't understand how he arrived at this mindset. It's just a sad existence, and he deserves to feel the weight of the consequences of his actions. I don't feel bad for him at all. Some people live their life trying their hardest to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and good on them. Let them do that. That is their prerogative. Thank you, OP, for the story. I hope all is going well with you now. I hope you find someone that does worship you like you deserve to be worshipped, because you did nothing wrong here. All you wanted is love, and you got spit on. I really hope that you're doing better. Please, God, be doing better. Our next post is by user DeepSeason1577, and it's titled, Am I the asshole here for telling my disabled coworker that she shouldn't need to lie on dating apps? This is a tough one, and I'm genuinely curious to know what people think, so here it goes. I have a coworker called Caroline, who, as you can guess, is disabled. She's in a motorized wheelchair and can't really move a lot, but is still very capable of doing her job. And is a lovely, fun person in general, by the way. We were talking on a break about dating and dating apps, how I had never used one, and how she did, talking about her experiences. Casual conversation, really, and we were careful not to go into detail or anything to make each other uncomfortable until this came up. She brought up how she didn't disclose that she was in a wheelchair or disabled on her Tinder bio because it tended to scare people off or make people uncomfortable when they chat through the app. This confused me because it's very obvious she's in a wheelchair, and if they went on a date in person, they would find that out very fast. There is absolutely no way she can function in daily life without it, so she can't exactly stash it nearby or something and just sit on a chair during the date. She also told me that she doesn't tell them at all until they show up to the date and see the fact that she's in a wheelchair right in front of them. Anyway, I, maybe stupidly, pointed out that is it not dishonest to not share that she's in a wheelchair on her bio or disclose it to potential partners before meeting for the first time? She told me that everyone on dating apps lies about stuff, so she doesn't see the big deal. I told Caroline that it's not like hiding you have a twin, or an accent, or a particular way of looking. This is something that will heavily impact their dating life with you, and they should be aware of that going in. She's a wonderful person and shouldn't feel awkward about it, and there are plenty of people out there who aren't fazed by their partners being in wheelchairs, so I didn't think that she should lie about it. She went off in a huff, saying that I didn't understand, but now I'm worried that I've somehow been the asshole by telling her this. I know it's not really my business, and I never would have told her this if she didn't ask me or hadn't brought this subject up at all. I just didn't want to lie to her about what I thought, and I tried to be tactful, but I think it blew up in my face. Am I the asshole? Quick clarifications. She asked what I had thought when she mentioned how she hid her disability on the app. I'm guessing she saw my surprise in my face when she said that. I would never tell her or anyone my opinion on a delicate matter like this if they didn't ask me first. In the comments, It's About the Cones says, "No assholes here." I would recommend apologizing though. Whoever she dates can decide for themselves if they want to continue seeing her after the first date. It's not like she'll be hiding this from them for 2 years and then reveal it right before the wedding. OP says, "Oh yeah, I apologized immediately, but she's still in a huff with me. And now I just wonder if I should have kept my mouth shut, to be honest." It's About the Cones replies, "I think you were coming from a genuinely good place when asking about it and wanted what was best for her. I can also see why she would be upset. Every person she meets probably sees her wheelchair first and who she is as a person second. A lifetime of that would probably be exhausting. Talking to someone on an app without disclosing the wheelchair may be the first time she gets to know someone without that detail being at the forefront of their mind. Being told or questioned about putting that information in her bio takes that opportunity away from her." For what it's worth, I strongly agree with you. I can understand her perspective, but it seems like she's setting herself up for even more disappointment than those apps usually bring. I'll be honest, I wouldn't date someone in a wheelchair because there's lots of things that I like to do that would be off limits to do together. I'd have the same response to someone who was just uninterested in those activities. Obviously, it's different if you're in a committed relationship and that person becomes disabled later on. I wouldn't leave someone that I love. That's part of what you sign up for. OP replies, "I worry more than anything that people would get angry, upset, or lash out at her for not being straight up before the date about her disability. Someone could really be violent about what they view as deception, and she wouldn't be able to defend herself." The Purplest Meerkat replies, "Okay, but that's for her to deal with. This kind of paternalism is something that disabled people have to deal with all the time, and it's always bang out of order unless they asked you for your protection. I appreciate that she's your friend, but she's also a fully capable adult. Her legs don't work, but her mind very clearly does. She's making decisions based on her experiences connecting with people as a wheelchair user, which you will never be able to understand unless you also become one. Your ideas about how she should conduct herself and move through the world, figuratively, not literally, don't hold a lot of validity because they're based on some assumptions that are deeply rooted in ableist notions about what position disabled people should take socially." Ninja Fox says, quote, "This confused me because it's very obvious she's in a wheelchair, and if they went on a date in person, they would find that out very fast. Have you considered that there is maybe a step or two between them reading her profile and them going on a date? I think it would be weird to not bring it up before meeting in person, but I think it's fine to leave it out of the profile and then bring it up in chat or messages or whatever. Some people would definitely not try and connect with someone with a disability, but be okay with it if they were clicking with the person." OP says, "Oh, I get that entirely. Don't mistake me. The fact that confused me more is that she didn't tell anyone anything until they met in person. If it were me, I would want to know at least before showing up to the date. I know there's plenty of chatting in between, and then it's not relevant, but to say nothing at all and then just let them be shocked on the day? That seems odd to me." Sufficient Soil says, Look, you would need to be utterly oblivious to fail to grasp the fact that we live in a world that tends to other and desexualize people with physical impairments. Is it really that weird to you that your friends want the opportunity to meet people in the flesh and perhaps make them forget about their silly preconceptions rather than be rejected merely because her dating profile has the word wheelchair in it? Do you expect people with mental health issues to list them in their dating profile? Do you think they want to be reduced to a diagnosis rather than an individual in the minds of a potential date? Would you want that? And Sugarplum replies, I personally have and will continue to leave immediately anytime it's clear that someone hasn't been honest about who they are. Intentionally hiding something is manipulation, and that's a bad way to start off any relationship. This is another one of those situations where I feel like if I say anything, I'm going to get yelled at in the comments. I have a lot to say, but the more I read these comments, the more I realize this is a very hard one to argue either way. Because I found a comment here that said, there are thousands of possible reasons that two people may be incompatible, many of which don't come up until after years of dating. Should a woman with infertility state that on her Tinder bio? Do I need to put my credit score in the Tinder bio? How much debt I've got in the Tinder bio? There's a lot of questions. I don't have the answers to them. All I know is what I would personally like to see and what I would not like to see out of a partner on a dating app. And my feelings personally would be, I would be upset if the person I was talking to for days, weeks, months had a disability like the friend here's that they were disingenuous about. If they were wheelchair bound and I didn't know until I went on a date with that person, I would be upset. I would feel lied to. Why would I want to date someone who has been dishonest with me from the get-go? If you have lied by omission coming up on the first date, you are not someone that I want to date personally. That is my feelings, and I don't think that Opie is the asshole here for telling this woman her opinion on a situation when she was asked for her opinion. Opie even apologized. Opie tried to be, tactful about this, and yet still got blown up in the face because apparently she didn't want an opinion. She wanted to be lied to. I don't know. And now, on to the update, 16 hours later. Since there's been a few questions or comments about various parts of this, I feel obligated to share some more information. I apologized immediately after she got huffy with me. I did not let the matter sit. Whilst she's still a little bit off with me, we've not stopped speaking by any means. Whilst she is a co-worker, I would say we are also light friends, given we get dinner together once a week and catch movies together, share hobbies, etc. But I don't know how well our connection would be if we didn't see each other 5 days a week, if that makes any sense. There are people that you meet through work that become lifelong friends, and those that are just friends throughout their shared workplace, but fade after. I just don't know where we stand in terms of that yet. I have stated, and continue to point out, that I never would have said what I thought if she had not asked me for my opinion. It isn't my business how she dates, and I fully understand, even if I can't relate, that dating with a disability is not easy, and there is a lot of warning signs that she needs to be aware of, like people with fetishes and so on. And I recognize that she should not put that information in her bio. However, to not disclose it before the first date, when they're about to meet in person for the first time, is the main point. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we met today at work and had lunch together, as we often do. And she brought up the conversation from the other day. Caroline admitted that she wasn't angry with me, but more with herself, because in her words, I know it isn't right to not tell them if we're going to meet up, but I think it's easier to hide it at first and judge their reaction in person. I know that it's not the right thing to do if I really like a guy, but sometimes it's less daunting when they don't know. I explained that I understood and that I didn't judge her. I just hoped she could understand that she asked me what I thought, and I don't like to lie, but I probably shouldn't have said anything. We agreed that it's a very nuanced subject, and each person with disabilities has it different, so it's hard to say what works for each person. Caroline said she would try being more honest in the future with potential partners, and I said that it wasn't my place to judge, and I wished her luck with dating in the future. All in all, we both acknowledged that we were both assholes and not assholes. It's a difficult subject, and neither of us has a place to say what everyone should or shouldn't do when dating. In the comments, Kistner says, "That's a tough one. However, at the end of the day, people prefer to be dealt with honestly, and her starting a potential relationship with an omission is questionable. There's also a big issue of fetishizing and preying on the disabled, and any disclosure could put her at a higher risk for being assaulted. It sucks that she has to worry so much that she can't fully be open. Disabled women especially also have extremely high rates of being victims of sexual abuse and regular abuse, so I would get the wariness of disclosing it online where creeps can, as mentioned, prey purposefully for someone vulnerable. Not saying that this is why she did it, it's just that I would get it if someone disabled would be kinda careful in places where people can specifically target them. I was thinking the exact same thing. She shouldn't put it on her profile, but she should tell people before they meet up. It's one of those things where I think Caroline isn't necessarily morally wrong, just potentially setting herself up for more pain. Will people reject her for using a wheelchair? Yeah. Will people also reject her for her attempt to hide a major part of her life, which would affect their life together? Absolutely. Me personally, I would find it harder to get rejected to my face upon showing up. That said, I can appreciate avoiding prejudice and fetishists. I'm also curious how she's managing this, assuming she has photos. Perhaps she's an ambulatory wheelchair user. Perhaps they're before her disability if indeed she has been able-bodied in the past. Perhaps they're all taken of her seated, but not in her chair. How do you hide a bulky-ass chair? And that's all I have for you guys today. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.